Cadet Crix was having what the humans would call a very bad day, except humans probably had a more colorful term for it, involving words that would get you disciplined in 17 different galactic languages. He tumbled through the zero-gravity training sphere for the 9th time that morning, all forearms flailing uselessly as his orientation went from vertical to horizontal to plisk. The magnetic training sphere was supposed to simulate ship-to-ship combat scenarios. Instead, it was simulating Crix's complete and utter humiliation in front of 37 other cadets. "Cadet Crix, you're spinning like a Drexian mating dance," announced Instructor Vo through the CUM system. "Except the Drexians have rhythm and you have inertia problems." Fantastic. Even the instructors were dunking on him now. Crix finally managed to grab a handhold, stopping his rotation with all the grace of a cargo freighter hitting an asteroid field. His breathing apparatus wheezed. Voltarians were not designed for this nonsense. They were designed for their home world's comfortable 1.2 standard gravities. Solid ground beneath their three-toed feet, and a reasonable amount of dignity. The training sphere powered down, and Crix drifted toward the exit port, trying to pretend the last 20 minutes had not happened. "Better luck tomorrow, Spinner," called out Voss. A Hectoran cadet with 6 legs he would never need in space, and a personality that made you wish for explosive decompression. "Maybe try using all 4 hands next time."
"Oh wait, you were!"
Crix's primary mouth wanted to say something sharp. His secondary mouth, the one that controlled intelligent thought, kept it shut. Voss was top of the class. Voss was going to graduate with honors. Voss was also an insufferable jerk, but that seemed to be a bonus in military academies. The locker room was a chaos of different atmospheric requirements and body configurations. Crix slumped onto a bench, designed for bipeds, and tried to figure out where his military career had gone wrong. Probably around the time he thought zero-G combat certification would be easy. "Attention, all cadets," crackled the facility-wide CUM. "Report to Orientation Hall 7. We have a new instructor joining the academy. Attendance is mandatory." Great. Just what Crix needed, another instructor, to witness his failures. Orientation Hall 7 smelled like recycled air and broken dreams. Commander Threll stood at the podium, her crystalline body refracting the overhead lights into disco patterns that nobody had the courage to mention. She was a Corvellian, which meant she was functionally immortal, literally made of living gemstone, and had exactly 0 patience for cadets who wasted her time. "Cadets, we are joined today by Lieutenant Marcus Webb, on loan from the Terran Defense Initiative." A collective murmur rippled through the assembled students. Humans. Everyone had heard about humans. The species that somehow stumbled into galactic society 5 decades ago despite having technology held together with optimism and duct tape. They came from a death world with crushing gravity, spent half their lifespan asleep, and had the audacity to classify their own planet's wildlife as trying to murder them. Marcus Webb walked to the front with an economy of movement that made Crix sit up straighter. He was not impressive by galactic standards. Bipedal, 2 arms, no natural armor, no redundant organs visible from the outside. He wore the standard instructor uniform and had the kind of face that suggested he found something perpetually amusing about the universe. "Morning," Marcus said, his translator rendering his words in flat galactic standard. "I'm here to teach advanced zero-gravity maneuvering. I know what you are thinking. Why is a human teaching zero-G when humans are from a high-gravity world?" Excellent question. The answer will either make sense by the end of the term, or you will fail. Either way, I get paid. A few nervous laughs scattered through the hall. "Demonstration," Commander Thrall said, gesturing toward the training sphere visible through the observation window. Marcus nodded and headed for the access port. Within 30 seconds, he was inside the sphere, floating in the center, the gravity plating deactivated. Then Marcus moved. It was not floating. It was not drifting. It was like watching liquid poured through space. He touched one wall with his fingertips, redirected his momentum with a twist of his torso, and flowed to the opposite side of the sphere. He tucked, rolled, extended, and stopped dead in the center with his arms crossed. "Show off," muttered Voss, but even he sounded uncertain. Marcus performed a combat sequence next, moving through strikes and defensive positions that would normally require stable footing. He had no stable footing. He had vectors, momentum, and apparently a complete disregard for how physics was supposed to humiliate people. When he exited the sphere 5 minutes later, not a single cadet was making jokes. "Questions?" Marcus asked. Crix raised one hand before his brain could stop him. "How?" Marcus smiled. "Humans do not float well. We sink in water denser than us. We fall when we trip. Our entire existence is managing gravity. So when you take gravity away, we finally get a break." "Any other questions?" "That makes no sense," Voss said. "Welcome to working with humans," Marcus replied. "We will start training Monday. Bring your failure attitudes. I will need something to work with." Monday arrived with all the enthusiasm of a hull breach drill. Crix reported to Training Sphere 3, where Marcus was waiting with a datapad and what humans called coffee, which smelled like burned regret. "Crix, right? The spinner?" "Yes, sir." "Stop calling me sir. I work for a living—" Marcus gestured to the sphere. "Get in. Show me your worst." Crix's worst was pretty spectacular. He made it 15 seconds before his orientation betrayed him and he started the spin cycle again. Marcus pulled him out. "Okay. We have identified the problem. My complete lack of talent, your brain." Marcus tapped his own head. "Voltarians have inner ear structures designed for heavier gravity. Your brain is screaming that you are falling, so you panic, so you flail, so you spin. Vicious cycle. So I am doomed. No, you are trainable. Humans have the same structures. We just learn to lie to our brains." Marcus pulled up a hologram of human anatomy, which looked disturbingly fragile. "Humans come from one standard gravity. You know what one standard gravity means? It means every single motion we make fights against a constant downward pull. Walking is controlled falling. Running is barely controlled falling. We spend our entire lives compensating." Crix's tertiary hand scratched his head. "I do not understand how that helps in 0G. Because we are always thinking about our center of mass. Always thinking about momentum. You know what you are thinking about. Not falling. In 0G, falling does not exist. Your brain has not accepted this." Marcus floated into the sphere, gesturing for Crix to follow. Lesson 1. Humans play a sport called basketball. You throw a ball into a hoop sounds. Simply, except you are doing calculus in your head about arc, velocity, and distance while jumping off the ground. We do this for fun. That sounds horrible. It is. But it teaches you the awareness of where your body is in space without looking. Marcus extended his arm, bent his elbow, flexed his fingers. Every joint is a vector. Every movement changes your trajectory. You have 4 arms. That is 4 times the control if you use them right. Over the next hour, Marcus walked Crix through exercises that felt ridiculous, extending one arm while tucking another, recognizing which way momentum was carrying him, learning to feel rotation before it became a spin. Other cadets started gathering at the observation window. "Is the human actually helping him?" Someone asked. "Look, Crix made it 30 seconds without spinning," another said. Voss pressed his face against the window. "Impossible. Crix is terrible at this." Inside the sphere, Crix was beginning to understand. When he extended his lower left arm, he rotated slightly right. When he tucked his legs, his upper body wanted to rotate forward. Action and reaction. Momentum and control. "There you go," Marcus said. "You are not fighting gravity anymore. You are dancing with physics. This is still extremely difficult. Of course it is. You are doing in weeks what humans spend years learning. But here is the secret nobody tells you." Marcus grinned. "Every species thinks their way is the only way. Hectorans use their 6 legs for leverage. Corvellians barely need to move their crystalline bodies. But adaptation, that is a human specialty. We come from a world that has hurricanes, earthquakes, predators, and spicy food that can hospitalize us. We got creative, or we died." Crix managed a full minute of controlled movement before needing a break. Same time tomorrow, Marcus said. And Crix, stop thinking like a Voltairean. Start thinking like someone who has something to prove. 3 weeks into training, Crix had gone from joke to curiosity. He was not the best in his class, but he was no longer the worst, and that felt like a massive victory. He could enter the training sphere without immediate catastrophe. He could execute basic maneuvers without spinning. He could almost keep up with the mid-tier cadets. Boss, Naughty said. Cadet Crix Vaz said during mess hall, his translator dripping with false politeness. I hear you have been improving. Some, Crix said carefully, because conversations with Voss were like navigating minefields. Wonderful. Then you will have no problem with a friendly challenge. Voss leaned back on 4 of his 6 legs, radiating confidence. You and me. Next week. The Voidron was legendary, an obstacle course through a decommissioned ship section, simulating boarding actions, equipment, failures, and hostile environments. It was optional, terrifying, and completing it with a good time virtually guaranteed top placement after graduation. Failing it, or worse, refusing the challenge, marked you as weak. I accept, Crix said, before his intelligent secondary mouth could object. Excellent. May the best cadet win. Voss walked away, and his friends followed, laughing. Crix put his head in his primary hands. His secondary hands reached for his communicator. 20 minutes later, he was in Marcus's office, which looked like a storage closet had exploded and then reorganized itself around a coffee maker. You did what? Marcus? Ask it. I accepted a challenge to the Voidron, against the top cadet in our class. Crix, you are not ready. I know. You are going to embarrass yourself. I know. You might actually get expelled if you failed badly enough. I know. Crix's voice cracked. But I could not back down. I have been a joke since day 1. If I refuse this, I will be a joke forever. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, sipping his terrible coffee. You know what humans say about pride? No, that it comes before the fall. But we also say fortune favors the bold, and we invented extreme sports. So our relationship with good judgment is complicated. Marcus set down his mug. 1 week, I can get you ready enough to not die. Winning is up to you. What do I need to do? Everything I say, exactly as I say it. No questions, no hesitation. You are going to learn to move like you are angry at physics itself. Training became brutal. Marcus pushed Crix through scenarios that made regular training look like recreation time. Crix learned to redirect momentum using explosive movements. He learned to navigate by touch when visual orientation was compromised. He learned that humans, when properly motivated, could be absolute tyrants with stopwatches. The night before, the Voidron Crix found Marcus in the observation deck, staring at Earth's moon visible through the viewport. Can I ask why you became an instructor? Crix said. Marcus did not turn around. I was a pilot. Lost my ship and crew in a tactical disaster. Could have retired. Could have taken a desk job. But I figured if I could teach other species what humans learned the hard way, maybe fewer cadets end up like me, survivor with a pension and nightmares. No, I am sorry. Do not be. Just win tomorrow. Nothing would annoy me more than watching my teaching methods fail, because my student gave up. The observation deck was packed. The Voidron did not happen often, and when it did, it was entertainment. 2 cadets, 1 obstacle course. Winner takes glory. Voss stretched his 6 legs, looking relaxed and confident. Crix tried to remember how breathing worked. Commander Thrall's voice boomed through the speakers. Cadets Voss and Crix will navigate the Voidron simultaneously. First, to reach the extraction point wins. Lethal force is disabled, but injuries are possible. Begin on my mark. The countdown started. Crix looked at Marcus in the crowd. The human gave him a single nod. Mark. The course exploded into chaos. Simulated hull breaches, failing artificial gravity, debris fields. Voss launched forward immediately, using his 6 legs to grip, push, and navigate with mechanical efficiency. Creeks followed, using everything Marcus taught him. Think light, move heavy. Every action is a vector. Use all 4 arms. The first obstacle was a debris field in zero. Voss spider crawled through it, using his natural advantages. Crix pushed off one piece, twisted, caught another, redirected. He was not as fast, but he was not far behind. Second obstacle, rotating corridor with intermittent gravity. Voss adapted quickly, but the changing gravity disrupted his rhythm. Crix, trained to expect chaos, timed his movements, using gravity when it helped, ignoring it when it did not. They emerged neck and neck. What is happening? Someone in the observation deck said, "Crix is keeping up." "The human training," another cadet muttered. "It is actually working." Third obstacle, a maze of conduits with limited visibility. Voss rushed in confidently. Crix took a breath and remembered Marcus's words. Humans navigate in the dark by feel. Use your hands. Crix moved slower but deliberately, using all 4 arms to feel his way through. He heard Voss cursing somewhere ahead, having taken a wrong turn. Fourth obstacle, simulated hostile environment requiring protective equipment. Crix's hands remembered the training, suiting up efficiently. He was in the lead now. Final obstacle, a gap too wide to jump, too far to reach, with no handholds in zero. Voss arrived, analyzed it with his 6-legged brain, and started looking for regulation solutions. Crix looked at the gap and thought about Marcus, about humans who turned problems into puzzles. He grabbed a piece of debris from earlier obstacles, positioned himself, and threw it in the opposite direction of the gap. Newton's third law: every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The throw propelled Crix across the gap. He tucked, rolled, hit the opposite wall with his feet, and pushed toward the extraction point. Behind him, Voss was screaming something that the translator refused to render. Crix hit the extraction point first. The observation deck erupted. The aftermath of the Voidron was surreal. Cadets who had never spoken to Crix suddenly wanted to know his training regimen. Voss, to his credit, approached with something resembling respect. "That debris throw was unorthodox," Voss said. "I learned from a human," Crix replied. "Unorthodox is our baseline." Commander Threll called both cadets to her office, along with Marcus. Her crystalline body refracted the light in ways that suggested she might be pleased, or possibly about to shatter them into component atoms. With Corvellians, it was hard to tell. "Lieutenant Webb," she said, "your training methods are effective. I am requesting you expand your course to additional cadets." "I will need more coffee," Marcus said. "Approved." "Crix, your performance was exemplary. Top 10% placement is now achievable with continued progress. Voss, you remain top of class, but got beaten by creativity. Learn from this." After dismissal, the 3 of them stood in the corridor. Voss excused himself with a stiff nod, leaving Marcus and Crix alone. "You know what I learned," Crix said. "It was never about gravity. It was about thinking I could not adapt." "Every species has advantages," Marcus said. "Corvellians are nearly indestructible. Hectorans have redundant limbs. Voltarians have 4 arms and can breathe in harsher atmospheres than most. But humans, we come from a world that spent millions of years trying to kill us. We had predators faster than us, stronger than us, with better senses. Our planet has weather patterns that can wipe out cities. We have spiders the size of dinner plates and plants that cause pain if you touch them wrong. That sounds horrifying. It is. We call one continent Australia and use it to prove we have a sense of humor about survival. My point is, we got creative because we had no choice. Turns out creativity is the best advantage." Marcus grinned. "Also, we are the only species that looks at a spicy pepper, causing us physical pain, and decides to make it spicier. We are not wired correctly. I want to visit Earth someday. Bring medical insurance and a sense of adventure. But seriously, Crix, You earned this. You stopped fighting what you are not and started using what you have. Will you keep teaching? Someone has to torture the next batch of cadets. Besides, watching you beat Voss with a piece of debris was the most entertainment I have had in years. Marcus clapped Crix on the shoulder. By the way, I'm going to need a teaching assistant next term. Are you asking me? I am telling you, report Monday. We have a fresh group of cadets who think 0G is impossible. Let us go. Prove them wrong. Crix looked out the viewport at the stars, at the vast darkness that no longer seemed quite so intimidating. Yes, sir. Stop calling me sir. Yes, Marcus. Better. Now, let us go celebrate. I know a place that serves food that will not try to kill you, which by human standards means it is boring, but by everyone else's standards means it is safe. They walked down the corridor together, a human and a Voltarian. Proof that sometimes the best way to overcome your limitations is to learn from someone whose limitations are completely different. And if that human occasionally made jokes about their own species being walking disaster factories held together by stubbornness and poor decision-making, well, that just made the lessons more memorable. Somewhere behind them, the training sphere powered down for the night, ready to humble a new generation of cadets tomorrow. The universe was vast, full of species with incredible advantages. But it turned out, knowing how to adapt was the greatest advantage of all, even if it came from a species that thought Australia was a reasonable place to live.